guys like jazz? Yes. Come to London again. Okay,
Yes.
I will. What's the highest squeal note Kenny can hit? Triple F. How were the auditions to get into the band, and how did everybody do in their auditions? Really, nobody auditioned. I think the closest thing is Webb subbed on a gig once. We played this version of Sidestep, and he played the most insane trumpet solo I have ever heard. Not released. There is a board mix of it. I'm gonna give you a link right now. Wong.com. Wong with 4 O's.com/trumpetman. It's a board mix. I don't know that it's the best to have on a live album or something, but the trumpet solo on it, it's so insane. Did anybody audition? No, there was no auditions. One time there was auditions. I was looking for a tour a few years ago for a bass player on a Europe tour. I had some people send in videos of them playing. Seth Tackaberry was the standout of all of them. What stood out about Seth's is that he learned the music incredibly. He felt time the same way that I feel time, and he really made an effort to show that in the videos. He looked like he was having a good time. There were some people that sent in videos and they're just... I was 20 seconds in, I'm like, you don't want the gig, do you? Seth had the right amount of enthusiasm, right amount of grooving along. He really studied the original parts. He could feel where things were maybe open to more interpretation.
When he did the articulation finger Jocko meets Rocco thing was insane, but when we started playing the slap, the Minneapolis jank thing, Sonny thing, but the moment...
No, he means that in a good way. No, he doesn't mean...
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly.
That's the Minneapolis jank. That's like
the jank.
The Sonny T original, man. We were looking for that out of him. He didn't know what it was.
But the thing is, we told him, hey, man, this is what you're missing. And not even like 3 days passed.
He studied the Sonny T tapes.
He studied, and he immediately came back and like, oh my God.
And excited to learn it.
Yeah.
Not just like, oh, these guys want me to play this thing. I got to learn this new. He's like, man, I don't know what that is. It's dope. I'm going to figure it out. And he came correct. Sonny, have you auditioned for gigs?
James Brown's band I auditioned with one time. They came to town, this was years ago, and they needed a bass player. So they pulled the amp off the bus. I went to the hotel, and they put a piece of music in front of me, and I had to play that, and then they said, play Licking Stick. So I did that. So I played it, and they said, okay, you got the gig.
Also, part of the question that's being asked is, how do you get gigs? Kevin and I went to college together. That's how he has this gig. We've done thousands of gigs together, and he's dope, so he got the gig. Same with Petar. The first time I played with Nêgah, it was like, oh my gosh, her energy is insane. She knows what to do.
People actually call me more because of the vibe. Not even sure if I'm talented, but I know I know I have the vibe. Like, I want to be there. I'm not going to go do a gig without wanting to be with those people or play that music.
Tell him, Nêgah.
I'm gonna tell them, like, do not show up in the gig.
Tell him.
Don't show up in the gig thinking you're the best. Just have a good time.
Tell us.
That's all I got.
Petar's arm is tired over here.
Yeah, my mic stand here.
This cat doesn't have the chops. Tell me some of your gigs and how you got them.
When I first started with Georgia, Ricky Minor called me for that gig because he was going to do something to work with Quincy Jones. So he was leaving the group. You know, he was an MD at the time when I first got in the group. Had me to come over. I learned all the music. We had all the charts, had everything there. And so we finally switched out and left, and I've been going there ever since. 30 years, 20 years now I've been working with her since I had that first tour.
For those that don't know, Georgia is an incredible artist from Italy.
Yes, she's
and
dope.
Sonny's been her music director and playing with her for a lot of years. I feel like a lot of the gigs that I've done themselves are auditions for other gigs.
Absolutely. Yep.
So much of what I did when I was cutting my teeth is, all right, I'm gonna go do this gig for $40. Absolutely. And the reason why I'm doing it is because there's a bunch of these cats that have other really good gigs.
Right.
They're the other musicians on it. So I'm gonna show up and I'm not gonna treat it as a $40 gig. The way you do the small things is the way you do the big things. So the way that I show up to the $40 gig is probably the same way that I'm gonna show up for the gig that pays an insane amount of money.
When I moved to New York and didn't have any gigs, I said yes to every single opportunity to play with people, whether it paid or not. no matter what the band was, just because I wanted to be playing, and the only way to start playing is to start playing.
Eddie's back there sabotaging. This guy's playing these flutes, and Eddie's out there. Sound like a bumblebee.
Am I too loud? I always try to be easygoing and do a good job, and eventually that spirals until you're working enough that you can start saying no to gigs. When you're busy, you whittle it down into what you love.
What came from Michael was, if you like an artist, even though you might not get the gig, learn all of his music, because you never know. You might get the call, and all of a sudden, oh, you don't know this song? The more you study the artist that you really want to work with, for instance, if it's Cory's music, I say start from the first EP, Minneapolis, and go on through all the live records. This fool can just stop and call something on you and like, oh, I don't know that. Oh, too bad. Why didn't you study the tapes?
Gotta go sit in the corner.
The way that I was playing with Gene Simmons, I played a gig with Paul Peterson, and Michael Nelson was also there. They happened to be the music directors for this thing. They're hiring a band to play for Gene Simmons. Gene didn't know that I existed. He shows up at the rehearsal and he's like, hey kid, you wireless? That was his first question when he came up to me. He said, hey kid, you wireless? And Paul looked over me with that look like, you better tell me right now that you're the right person that I hired for this. If you're not wireless right now, I'm gonna kill you. And then I was wireless. It was a blast. And you remember what Gene said to me right afterwards? Kenny was on the gig too.
You asked him, you know, what do you want me to do? How long? Was thing? He says, I just want you to play your ass off, or I'll kill you. And so you absolutely played your ass off.
He gave me the or I'll kill you. I'm dead serious, man. I was like, all right, Gene, I got you.
What happened afterwards?
Oh, on the gig, he gave me to lean into me. He wanted me to do a trust fall to him in the middle of the gig. This is a story for another time, but...
Bottom line is you're still alive, so...
Yeah, I am alive, and I had to trust him as well. This is from Alyssa, who's wondering, what songs do you get nervous to play because they're so technically difficult? Deantown, yeah, the left hand with the right hand.
I, believe it or not, get nervous about the beginning of Smoke Show because it's a low B on the alto, which is one of the hardest notes to get out cleanly and consistently.
Meditation's pretty tough. Meditation, final answer.
Hold on, let me make a guess. Because J. Webb warms up with this lick every day. Jax.
No. No, that's that. But that I use that as sort of like a tipping point of whether I'm warmed up or not.
Oh, okay,
because of the mod wheel lick.
Yeah.
So I know if I can do that, then my chops are good to go. Airplane mode.
Michael?
Ketosis, when it bumps up.
Sonny?
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Assassin?
Assassin, man. By the end of the song, we are playing so fast, and I'm playing this. And I'm like, man, by the time we're at the end of the song, we're going so, because they're moving. It's like, that is complicated because it's physical.
Assassin, for the same reason, because like towards the end, like if the song is already fast and it's the first song of the set. If I go too long without playing with you guys, when we play like boom, 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 doo, 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 doo.
Bluebird.
I forget it. I just forget, and Petar has to remind me like.
Petar, what's the most technically difficult song for you?
There's moments where, to me, it's like, Lee is the hardest thing ever, just because it's...
You gotta hold it.
You gotta hold it.
Mental focus.
And to focus, Assassin, for the record, when you turn around and say faster, in my head, I'm like, oh, I need to go.
Right.
It's like dying. I'm like, I really,
Yeah.
by the time and it's the first song, and the bass drum is already like 5 miles over there, and it's like, go!
I dig it. Broadville was the one that... I haven't played it in forever, but Bluebird is hard to get the articulation on the... A lot of the things that would be technically hard for other people to do on the guitar are just part of my wheelhouse. Like this sort of thing, if I go... Like that sort of thing, it's just in my hands and I can do it, where I don't have to think about it, where other guitar players might have to think about it. And my right hand is very loose, so even like when I do the... Like it might sound the most technically difficult of many of the things that I do, and it might be the hardest thing for other guitar players to recreate. But for me, it's just such a natural way for me to play that it's actually kind of easy. So, I don't know. Where a lot of other things that other guitar players do would be really hard for me to do. You know, this...